Remember you talked?
We did talk about, I don't know, let me talk to Kevin. Okay. For a satellite. Meeting where we're
Yes,
gonna put a
just
painter,
building,
yeah.
So everybody's insurance stayed low.
Yeah, well, it's pretty low now. It's 3. Really, the 3, I don't think got us anything over the 5 we had. 3 is kind of mostly for some commercial applications, but 3 is like about as good as you're gonna get. I don't even know if there's a 1 in the whole state.
Well, I thought if you move the fire station, some people along Oak Hill might
No.
be out of the radius.
No, 85% of this township is service, is in the service area of that station. Okay. So moving this one across the street, I don't think there's anything to Jack Italy on it. And technically, there's just a couple of houses in the far corners that wouldn't be in it. But I don't know anybody that hasn't been able to get an agent to agree to do it, because if I called my agent, he said, well, you're actually 12 feet over the radius line, I would say, okay, I need an agent now, right?
Yeah.
That's about what it amounts to. So the whole thing's.
No policy commission for that guy.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I think those hydrants going in might help. Keep you at 3 on that north end of the.
They might, I'm sure they would help, the
By
stuff
Shannon?
close to.
That close to Groveland, yeah, Groveland, yeah.
But they got the same ISO. And
Yes, not the same ISO.
So it's kind of 6 of one and a half dozen of the other.
Is it covered by Holly?
It's technically covered by Holly, but we actually do it. Don't ask me why, that's a long story.
We get till 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a long story, one that I think.
I was doing the head bob last night.
Yeah.
Kind of just
I thought it went
on the
pretty
fly,
well.
and
Yeah.
just on the fly.
Interesting presentations.
Appreciate it.
And she sent me an email, said,
That's
thanks for letting me
Dwayne.
do it, and I said, you did a great job on it, big capital letters, because.
Yeah, getting right in the middle of this conversation. Go
It's
on.
okay.
Are
Just
you
got the
ready?
gavel.
I would like to bring to order the special meeting of the Groveland Township Planning Commission. It is now April 12, 2022, 7:00 p.m.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, once again, we'll begin with the roll call
Jeff Penzine,
here.
Neil Loudon.
Here.
Dave Newbill.
Here.
Lynn Shane.
Yes, ma'am.
Jenny McKay. Here. Jim Christopher.
Here.
Angela Willis. Here.
And I was about to say, once again, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here. This is a special meeting, not regularly scheduled. Thanks to the entire planning commission for making it, which is wonderful. Danielle, thank you for coordinating. For those in attendance, obviously, this is a special issue, very important to the township. So it's kind of all hands on deck. So thank you for that. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I make the motion, we approve today's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving straight to new business. Before we get into that, as I did before, again, this is for my benefit and also for those who may not know what I have come to know as the backstory here. Just going to give a brief recitation of the lead up to tonight's special meeting. I guess beginning last fall, there was a community meeting, some discussions, input from the township officials, Holly Township, reps from the Michigan State Police, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, the Road Commission. There was, I guess, some concerns that were assembled and put into a cogent list. And we began to look at the ways that the township, Groveland, through the Planning Commission, could be more aggressive with regard to ensuring that the 2022 Renaissance Festival is a resounding success, not only for the festival, but also for the community and the affected residents, most importantly. In January, at our 25th Planning Commission meeting, That list was, I guess, formally compiled through a commission vote and approval. The list was, I guess, scheduled, or the request was that all items that were approved at that time would be completed within at least 60 days before the scheduled start of the 2022 Renaissance Festival. On February 15th, 2022, on behalf of the Planning Commission, I sent a letter to Kathy. I'm forgetting Kathy's last. Kathy Parker, as the authorized rep on behalf of the festival, just kind of underscoring what it was that we had identified as the requirements leading up to the event. Kathy then responded in a written correspondence on March 22nd. At that time, it was also made known that Rowe Engineering had been formally retained to serve as the, I guess, the consultant or the engineering expert for the festival. Thereafter, at the Planning Commission scheduled meeting, I think there was a scheduled meeting, it was at a special meeting on March 22nd. Scheduled meeting. I guess we again formally clarified the 7 specific items that we believe need to be completed by the Ren Fest. And on that date, we identified an April 19th target date. Okay. After that meeting and the recitation of those items, Dino Parka, on behalf of Rowe Engineering, sent an email inviting a meeting of a further discussion between the Planning Commission and Rowe Engineering and the Renaissance Festival, of course. So that brings us to tonight. We are here. We've assembled a special meeting for the purpose of Rowe Engineering and the Renaissance Festival. Chip is here tonight also to discuss their response or their plan, questions of the commission with regard to the 7 requirements that were approved by the commission in the meeting on March 22nd. Does that fairly summarize everything?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, I guess, should I just turn it over to Mr. Parka?
We'll start with me. I'm Dino Parka, project manager on the Renaissance Festival. We received notice that you were looking for a traffic study and some parking issues when I read the letter. And what I wanted the meeting for was we in the past had put in additional driveways and a few years back, and that was just shot down. You know, it was not acceptable. I don't know if it wasn't acceptable. I was not project manager at the time, but I was just told that those additional driveways were shot down. So now we're back here again and they want to do something about the traffic. So my understanding from the meeting is to get your input on exactly what you want to see. Are we adding driveways? Is the road commission allow you to add a drive, or, you know, what's going to be allowed here before we draft something up again and charge Renaissance $3,000 and then you reject it again? So we want to make sure we give them what you're looking for, and that will satisfy your requirements. So is my understanding is Dixie Highway the issue, or do you believe it's the parking issue with the festival?
Yeah,
Just
Bob.
to clarify a couple of things, the requests that were for the extra driveways in the past at the Renaissance Festival are actually both in Holland Township at that time. They had asked for one on Old Ridge Road and I think one on Larry Road.
Yeah, I know there was a couple additions.
And those have been turned down by Holland. What's changed is the supervisor there, George Cullis now, who wasn't there, understands the problem. And frankly, after last year, when I talked to him, he said, I don't get any complaints, Bob, you get all of them. I said, yes, George, that's the problem. He said, okay, well, we want to help. So there's an improved likelihood of a more comprehensive solution being available based on both townships wanting to solve the issue that gets created by it. And I think it actually breaks down into two things. One is, when the festival works okay, when the traffic's light, and Chip, feel free to jump in if you think I'm out of line on this. Things work fine, nobody cares, it's usually the first 3 or 4 weekends are like that. And when it gets to the last weekends, if you have a bumper crop of participants, I think 2 things happened last year. A huge amount of cabin fever in the general population
After COVID, yes.
wanted to get out to do anything. This is witnessed by my wife saying, I'll go with you tonight to the planning commission. Okay.
Thank you, Noreen.
So what happened is, they had a big turnout, and in my discussions with Kathy, it's actually much bigger than what that group you had counting the tickets was doing, or something, she said you got rid of them, because they knew the numbers were artificially low. And so it's the turnout, and then there were problems with as I understand it now, that some of the parking people didn't show up and the signs weren't available. And so what precipitated the early meeting in October that I originally set up with all of those people involved in it was to say, how are we going to look at this together to try and get it fixed? And what we were asking for at the onset of the initial thing, and if I'm out of line, feel free to jump in. But I think it was, we want somebody to put together a comprehensive plan on how do you manage the traffic? Is it 1 driveway, 2 driveways, 3? Because there were a number of different discussions on them. Where should they be? And how do we deal with it when things get out of whack beyond what it seems to be able to handle? And that's the crux of what I think has happened on everyone in the last 26 years that I've been affiliated with. They work sometimes for 2 or 3 years, you get a big crowd turnout, and all of a sudden it breaks down in the last 3 weeks. Okay, so that's what the impetus for the meeting was, and what we're really asking for. And the only change that happened from the very first meeting was, initially, the consensus of the state police troopers and the Oakland County Sheriff deputies that were there, both of them, without any prompting from me or anybody, almost universally said, the problem is you don't have enough ways to get in and out of there, and in and outbound traffic's jamming up at the same point. You need more points to do it, okay? That was the gist of their suggestion when we did it. And they were initially thinking, well, maybe the one that they originally asked for on Holdridge Road and the one on Larian Road was the way to go. But I talked to both the state police and the Oakland County Sheriff because after that meeting, the 2 troopers got in a car and drove down Holdridge Road, and they said, well, this is really a crappy road. Doesn't go through.
Yes.
There's hardly anybody
That's what
on
I'm saying.
it.
All you're
It's
gonna
a
do is
terrible
direct
road.
traffic back
And
out.
stack it up on
Dixie,
Holdridge Road.
yeah.
And it turns out my deputy clerk happens to live on Holdridge Road, okay? And what I didn't notice at the time we had the first meeting was, they being festival, actually owns, I think, 1,660 feet of Dixie frontage south of the last driveway to the newer parking lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the thought was, and the state police and the sheriff both said, yeah, it'd probably be better if it came out on Dixie than sticking it on Holdridge, because it's a terrible road anyway. So that's the only deviation from the very first discussions that I ever had. And I think the gist of what most of the correspondence I've seen is, we want somebody that can evaluate the traffic and the parking and come up with what is the real capacity of the festival? How do we manage it when it gets busy? And what is, for lack of a better phrase, I think, Jim, is what plan B, right? What do we do when stuff starts to melt down? Because historically what happens is, if the traffic's fairly light and the festival is within a certain number of people, it goes pretty well without a problem.
Up to about 24,000 people.
When you cross that threshold, it's like pulling your finger out of the duck. And everything just breaks loose, and it doesn't work. And the plan that we usually see is, I don't know, we're just gonna kind of punt like we do. And punting is what creates the problem, because then I come in one day and everybody is bent out of shape at Dobb, and I keep on telling them, I understand your concern, and I'm sympathetic. You do know the festival's in Holly, right? And so we want to fix that, and Holly seems to be receptive, as far as we know, to wanting to fix it as well. So that gives you all the background to the first meeting I set up, and then after that, it's been kind of turned over to the planning commission and you folks to set this up. As I said, I came to last week's meeting because God bless Danielle, I got a memory like a chicken, and said, you know, there's a meeting tonight. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll be there. And then the one today, I found out in my email yesterday. So that's how it all came about.
Yeah.
It's actually, they're asking the meeting and the ball is in the planning commission's court, but that was the gist of how we got to where we are.
And I think what we're looking for is, you know, like, we recognize that a proposal was made that was turned down early on, but I think what we're looking for is basically a well thought out study, you know, whether, and that includes a traffic study, but other means to be able to adjust, to basically address the root cause of the problem, and then come up with a series of proposals that we can entertain between both parties. I think that's what we're after
Right,
ultimately.
right. Yeah, we don't want to go into this guessing. We'd like to put some
Right.
engineering and thought
Yeah.
behind it that says,
Right.
and I know that's a tough,
This is Haley.
Yeah.
She's our traffic engineer.
and that,
And she's done traffic studies in Grand Rapids, you know, the city there for them, and she's got quite a resume. But, and she's had a moment to look at this,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, so.
yeah, 'cause that'd be handy if we could show, you know, here's our current layout, and yeah, your traffic gets above this point, we would predict a problem. And if
Right.
we were to change to this alternate layout, your traffic could get to this higher level before you would see a problem, and then we would have more confidence. We're not traffic experts here, right? That's why we're looking to you.
But he is an engineer, so you understand.
So talk slowly, use lots of numbers, and I'll be fine.
So it's well thought out and stuff.
But just to give us confidence that, you know, when we do hit these high weekends, right, we've got the traffic flow, we know we've got the capability to move it, and it's not going to affect the surrounding neighborhoods.
Haley, if I can ask, what is your last name?
Savola,
Could you spell that?
Savola.
Husbands on comments.
I guess just, I'm a very linear thinker, and I guess just to make sure we are of a mutual meeting of the minds here, what I would propose, we have our list, you know, our list of 7 items. You know,
I was looking at 2 of those. items.
right, and Dean, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So for purposes of tonight, I think our intention was just to be available to respond and clarify what our you know, request is. Okay, so that it puts you and the festival in the best possible position to accomplish the objective on time, which is crucial under the circumstances we currently face. But I guess that being said, if I could just turn it over to you, given the list of 7 items, can you identify or just point to us where we need to be more specific?
Well, one is said to add something about adding another exit or entry. And like I said, we had proposed some in the past and they were turned down, so we're saying, okay, so are you open to at least one of those? Or, you know, if we can put one on Dixie Highway, because they do now have property south of there. Like you said, yeah, you know, we're willing to do that. You know, that's what we're saying is we made some alternatives before, but now it seems like everybody, like you said, hey, we want to do something with this.
And here's, and I'm just, you know,
Because
I'm new at this, I'm just gonna
Because Larry, like none of these roads, north and south of it, are really can handle
No.
the traffic.
No.
So it's gotta
It
be
needs
out
to be on
onto,
Dixie.
it's gotta be on the Dixie. So
Yes.
that's what I'm saying, you know, okay, where are we talking? We added entrance, but.
so Dean, you know, kind of pulling off of what Angela just said, we are not, you know, subject matter experts. I think, you know, given the history and everything Bob had to say about, you know,
Who turned down the last thing?
correct. So adding an exit or an entry, you know, that is, I guess, one theory of resolution, but like Angela pointed out, our goal, our request would be give us a number of options. If it's not adding an exit or adding an entry, what other alternative measures can be timely accomplished to ensure that, you know,
I was gonna say, I
that
think-
goal is fully and, you know, without issue satisfied.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think towards the end of the last meeting, I think Jim, actually, somebody had mentioned that maybe another exit and entrance isn't the answer. And that's what you really wanted to see by the traffic study and the engineering firm was to look at our current parking lot.
Right.
Evaluate it and then make determination on whether or not, yeah, you're gonna need a new entrance or a new exit, or is there something we can do with our current entrances and exits to rectify the problem, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah,
To
basically.
that
take
point,
a
we
second
can,
look.
we can propose another entrance, but it ain't gonna get constructed anytime soon.
No,
You know, the way the atmosphere is going, we can put a plan together and have it to you next week and you can approve it. But it's gonna take all summer to get a contract.
but what could be done between now and then as a
Right.
stopgap? So I think that's what we're after is,
Mhm.
okay, based on
What we have
the
now.
climate
What can
now,
we do to
right,
improve?
right, and then, you know, what's your interim fix, and then what's your long-term solution?
And are there, I know where the main entrance and exit is there one just south of there?
Yes.
Like 100 yards?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about 100 yards. So if you're looking at the house, you know, the office, you have the main entrance to the right, and then we have the secondary entrance off to the left.
That one went in when
That
they
funnels in.
bought the
south
extra
parking lot.
parking on that back property and built a parking lot right there. Because that was one of the first things that statistically, I don't know what the numbers, I'm sure you got it, but over time, the festival gets big. Okay.
Unfortunately,
Well,
it's
that's good.
taken away my hunting stand many times.
Yeah, so that's what magnifies the problem. So
Right.
I think the literature that Kathy had for this upcoming year, she's anticipating 285,000 or 288. Well,
I hope not.
well, to my recollection, that's the biggest number ever. we've seen.
No, we've hit 300.
Yeah, okay.
But,
That must have been one of the other ones where I was screaming on the cell phone.
And that gets back to the Plan B logic, you know, again, if we look at what we can do, adjustments we can make for this season, and we determine, here's what we feel is a maximum traffic flow, then how do we handle it once we get to that number? You know, before they're backing up and flowing back into the neighborhoods, we've got to have that plan in place.
Just as a data point for reference, you know, in the past, what had happened is when traffic started getting bad, they ended up buying that second piece of property and eventually building the parking lot in the back there behind the house. And then they made the parking lot bigger back there. And then when it got bad, they actually used to lease Mount Holly's parking lot in the summer. And that's pretty much tied up by the ORV park now because they kind of lease it for the summer. So that's not available. They used to lease the property across the street, and I think that's owned by the Fruit Brothers for the haunted house. And so, and then one year they tried putting it in on Oliver's Lake, but that was kind of a disaster because it's on the opposite side of the road, and you have people pushing baby carts in the middle of Dixie Highway, and they used to bus from Mount Holly's parking lot to there, but they would, this is where the details are very important. They would say, we're gonna get 6 buses and we're gonna lease Mount Holly's parking lot. But then the buses would be sitting in Mount Holly's parking lot, however, the bus drivers. So when it would get backed up, they called the bus drivers in. The bus driver was calling back on his cell phone saying, well, I'm stuck on Dixie Highway, I can't get to the parking lot.
Yep.
So it was for now, that's what, and all those plans are kind of gone now. Parking lot's gone, property across the street's gone. They don't have any buses, they don't own the signs. This is what kind of compounds what happens.
So basically what it boils down to is they have to figure out how they can get people in quickly, quicker than what they can right now.
Yes,
And how they can get people
out
out
quickly.
So it
quickly.
sounds like we need more of a traffic control plan
Yes.
for the parking area.
As an
than it
interim
is
fix,
Dixie.
as an interim fix, and then the long-term fix could be, do you have dedicated entrances and exits, you know, things of that
Right.
nature, that would be more long-term. But the key thing is controlling, making sure you can get folks in quickly and make sure you get folks out quickly.
The hard part's gonna be determining what's gonna resolve when it gets out of control.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
there is a limit, you know, too much of, it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
basically.
Bob,
That is the critical issue.
before you begin, Danielle, was there something important you wanted?
Yeah,
to
I
add?
just wanted to say before we just continue to get on facts and details about whatever else. I just want to make sure that out of these 7 items, the only ones that Rowe Engineering is going to be taking over of the 7 is a root cause traffic plan. Are they finding the root cause? Is this something that we're asking of Renaissance Festival?
What number? Please.
The second one,
Well, if,
formable plan to fix root cause traffic plan. Is that the traffic study? And that's gonna fix it?
well, I'll tell you what I had in mind, as I understood, that was one of 2, correct? You,
I was looking at the entrance, and I think there was one like 5 or 6 down where it talked about doing a traffic
Okay.
study.
So-
And that's what I'm saying, were we studying?
So Dan-
Were we studying the parking lot?
so Danielle, if that answers your question, we will kind of tie that up in a minute. Bob, you were saying?
This is the problem that you're getting to the crux of the issue. Part of the reason there's such a sense of urgency. I set that first meeting up 6 months ago. And in the ensuing 6 months till tonight's meeting, we haven't been able to get anything done, okay? Now, you say that we can't get it all done. I would say to you, money fixes a lot of things.
Yeah.
I know people that'll put a road in. Now, they might charge you a whole bunch to do it on an expedited basis because we're running into the same thing, trying to get stuff lined up for the new building, okay? It's a matter of, do you have the time or the money to get it fixed? And the real issue is, as they've outlined, when it gets to critical mass and it all goes to hell, there's never a solution that seems to be in place to fix it. So I would suggest to you what I think we need in order to be able to address those citizens in particular, and the rest of the township is, you have a solution that comes back, whatever, and says, here's how many people you can handle, here's how many on a day, here's how you move the traffic in and out, and that works. I'm just picking a number out of the air, okay? That works up to 215,000 people. If you get over 25,000 people in a day, it doesn't work. And if you don't have a solution in place this year that will take care of that overage, then the solution has to be what we've been saying all along: limit the daily attendance, which is why I said those signs were so critical to have for the festival, because they used to use them not only for advertising, the changeable signs on North and South Dixie and at exit 101 and 106. They use those signs to say things like, this is the week of the Highland Fling, or whatever you call whatever that weekend is. And it gets people kind of hyped up for wanting to go, which is fine. I want you to be successful. But they could also use it then to say, the festival's full today, we're not taking any more in.
Sure.
And you can start turning them away. What we don't have, and what we didn't have this past year, is we got the critical mass. There were no signs. There was no way to say something. So Dixie turns into a parking lot. And when that happens, my fire department frequently has to go the wrong way, head in to southbound traffic to get up to the north end to do medical runs. And even though it's a fire department, I don't know if everybody knows this, but fire trucks and ambulances still have to obey the traffic laws. So if they make a decision in order to get to somebody that's got a, call it level 4, priority 1, and they go against traffic on Dixie Highway and they hit somebody, we're at fault, okay? I can't have that. That's the problem we have.
Chip?
I know, Jeff. So, and I don't know what Kathy has talked to you guys about, but in my conversation last night with Mr. Peterson, Mr. Beller, and I thought Kathy was part of it because I took the notes. We're actually looking to you guys for 2, 4, 5, and 6.
2, 4, 5, and 6.
Because I believe 2, 4, 5, and 6 would answer everybody's questions. Root cause,
And we can do that.
root cause
I
of the
mean,
problem, traffic, and I know Ms. Rose asked about a site plan for the lines. They're actually,
Yeah.
our original drawings actually already have lines on them for parking.
Okay.
So we can see that.
Yeah.
It's all right there.
Okay.
So,
I mean, it's hard to determine the exact root cause because you have to be standing there watching what's going on to see when you hit that critical
Yeah.
point and everything
It's not
else.
gonna be easy.
So doing that without standing out there on on the day that it happens, it's anybody's guess.
I-
I understand what you're saying.
But keep in mind-
At the same
He can
time,
tell you, because when I threw out, remember last time, I said, I think it's about 27,000.
yeah, we can.
They know
So that's what
when
we're
they
saying,
get chance.
and that's what we're gonna work on. We're not gonna sit there and tell you, well, we understand what the whole root cause is. You know,
That's-
we're just gonna tell you, it appears to be the parking issue, getting in and out, okay? So that's our understanding that the root cause is at this point.
And I
There
think
seems
that's
to be an
why,
issue with that.
I think that's why, I think an interim solution as a stopgap would be ideal. I mean, not just from a timing aspect, but because you're not out there physically. You at least have last year's data and years past to be able to put together some kind of model to determine where your pain points are. And based on that history, be able to put some measures in place to get through the season, but then actually have somebody, you know, from Row or, and I'm not saying it's Haley, but if someone else needs to be there to go through and monitor during those peak times, especially those last 3 weekends, to really comprehend what's going on from a traffic flows perspective, then you can start narrowing down what you're, okay, here's exactly what we need in terms of a long-term solution.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that would be part of the long term, so doing
Yes.
these data collection during the festival.
Yep.
Because that's really, we can't give you a long term until we know what the existing
Yeah.
conditions are, and that would be getting counts. We've got cameras that can do counts, we get all that data during the festival, and then we'd be able to come back with, this is a long-term fix, this is a actual study.
Right.
I mean, we'll put a parking plan together
Yeah, we
and
can do
then
that
we'll
now.
monitor how it's working.
Yes.
I understand that, but let's not kid ourselves. There's a bunch of citizens that expect some kind of resolution this year. Okay,
No doubt.
so
Yeah.
the long-term plan, I can fully support that straight. But you need to have some kind of an interim solution that says, if it hits the critical mass, this is what we do to stop it from completely melting down this year. And that fix could be, I'm just suggesting, we spend a lot of money to get the fixes in there, so it's ready for the opening, or we make a decision to limit the attendance. That's the part we've asked before, and I know that festival doesn't want to do it, but part of the problem is when you sell 300,000 tickets or 270,000 tickets, and they're good for 7 weekends, right? And it's always, every time this happens, it's, "Ah, damn, I forgot to go, and if I don't go now, I bought the ticket and I can't use it." They end up packing the last 3 weekends. I mean, so even though you may not be there looking at it today, he can tell you. I'll tell you exactly what day it's gonna be bad, and I'll tell you what time of day it's gonna be bad, because he knows when they come and go and the shifts change. They can tell you how many people are in the average car, because Kathy's told me that. They can give you, I bet you, almost every data point you need to do it. You need to figure out, how do I crank that through some formula or matrix that says this amount of traffic is what it can handle, and if that doesn't work, here's the fix. And the fix is either they can't come in now, or we do something that somehow adds to that capacity. And I don't think we're going to have the luxury of going through this whole thing come this August and say, well, we're just gonna kind of punt
No,
and
yeah.
hope it works, because that ain't gonna
No,
happen.
that's not the
No.
intent. But what we're saying is, we're gonna come up with some
You're gonna have a stopgap. measure
plans,
to
we're gonna have some
prevent-
plans, and we'll have a stopgap in, but until we actually sit out there and see how our plan's working,
And
we can't tell you.
Dina,
Yeah, and your
it's a full-fledged
stopgap is
plan.
going to, I would hope, would include, okay, you've got
Yeah,
know
here's what
your
we're
tipping
proposing
point.
for this year.
So that's
and
gonna be
then
the
we'll monitor
extreme,
it,
but
see
then
how
after
it
that,
works.
your long-term solution will be, okay, now in order for me to accommodate
Yeah.
the amount of people like that, I need to do X, Y, and Z.
Because Barry has suggested if you wanted to do busing, and I'm not sure that's a good idea based on past ones. You could probably rent some of his property, and he's got some buses he picked up somewhere, because he's always got something. That he could do that for extra parking. The problem is putting it on Bedrock's property, the bus has got to come into the same traffic flow that's going to the festival anyway. So I'm like, we're just moving chairs around on the Titanic, it's still sinking.
So correct me if I'm wrong, is there no historical data that the festival could provide to you as its retained, expert to kind of mitigate
I mean,
the,
we can get from them what their parking plan is, you know, what are they doing now? As far as getting people parked in and out. And then we can say, okay, well, you can improve that by doing this, making this one way, make this many cars park here, and then the exit signs go here. You know, you need to have people out here guiding people, you know, do you have all that in place on site? That's what we're gonna look at, is what they're doing now, and then how we can improve on getting the people in and out of the way it's set up now. And then we will make a recommendation based off of that, you know, that's a lot of people and you're still gonna be limited. We do need another drive over here and make this strictly entrance and this strictly exit, or do we do both? You know, that's what we're gonna be looking at. But like I said, until we put a plan in action and then go out there during one of these events, we're really not gonna be able to evaluate it based on past, because we don't know what they were doing at that time and how many people came in that hour. Did it build up over an hour? Did it build up over 15, 20 minutes?
and I think we're accepting that there are limitations given the fact that you're being retained at this point in time to address something that historically has proven to be a challenge, okay? There are limitations. However, what I'm hearing, or what it sounds like to me, it's a bit of a disclaimer in advance of accomplishment. And so, you know, I understand, we understand the limitations, but we also would ask and hope for, you know, a good faith effort as far as coming up with viable alternatives.
We are gonna come up with alternatives. I just don't want you to be the be all end all to this. You know, we can improve upon what's going on.
Right.
I don't have any doubt. We can improve. But what I'm saying is this may not be the final solution and it may not mitigate it going critical.
But I think you guys should be able to determine, based on engineering and calculations, you should be able to determine what your cap is for a given period of time on what your tipping point is in terms of that flow in and out of the parking area. And I think that would set the cap, getting back to what Bob was saying, in terms of if you need to cap the attendance, here's a maximum allowable flow before we start getting into that threshold, or start crossing that threshold when it comes to significant, and we have to define what significant congestion on Dixie Highway means. We got to define that too, right?
Yes.
But understanding that and saying, okay, this is a maximum allowable amount of people in a given period of time. And then at that point, okay, now we need to cut it off in terms of
Right.
attendance or whatnot, or
But
slow it
there's some
down.
controls in there that you can't control.
Yeah,
We don't understand when people are arriving. Are they running right there at the opening? Are they running midway through? How many people are staying all day? How many are staying for hours?
I
How
think
many
you should
are-
have previous
You know,
data.
they
Yeah.
have data like that.
He knows all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah. As long as people use
But that's what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah.
they'll give us what they got. and
So-
we come up with it.
So-
We can use that data. The issue is though, is that your issue is getting people in and out
Yeah.
and the existing traffic that's on the roadway network. And in order to really have an idea of what can fix this, we need to have data during the festival of what traffic's on that existing roadway network. Because if we don't have that data, it's just make believe and you're really not going to get anything. You need to have traffic counts. We need to
Yeah.
have counters during the festival. We can take the entry data in and out and everything and give you I'm gonna call it a pilot because Grand Rapids uses that, but they'll put a pilot solution in that can be part of our study that we would then use to come up with a more substantial fix. But we really can't give you any solid, this is going to fix it without doing a real traffic study, and that data collection has to be during the festival.
Now, would a good starting point at least be, so I would think that this was done a few years ago, back when you did propose the need of having those additional entrances, I would think, right? So is there a previous study available with that existing traffic flow where you can at least, you've got that as a starting point for a baseline, and you can go through based on the numbers that maybe Chip can give you or someone else will go through and build upon that as your first
If we,
glance at, okay, here's a
Yep.
plan that we can move forward with until we can get feet on the ground this season to go through and do the more comprehensive study.
yeah, if we had a previous study, and I don't know, I'd have to look back, because
Yeah,
I wasn't
what
here
we did, yeah.
during the time,
Neither
the
one of us
previous.
was here.
So I can look back and see if we do have a previous study, that we have some baseline data to use, then we can use that to formulate more of a better plan.
There should be one right around 2015, 2017.
Yeah, so use
Okay.
that as your starting point.
Yeah, if we have that, then I can use that, but to get you guys a full traffic study, we have to do that data collection during the event.
Yeah.
I guess our objective collectively is just to, with a forward-looking view, know that whatever happens when the dust settles on the 2022 festival, there is no question that this commission has done everything within our power and timely authority to prevent, to make sure that there are no, we want to leave it on the field, to use a sports analogy. And Chip, you had made reference to, I guess, the festival's understanding or the expectation with regard to the elements that Roe would be responsible for in the festival's eyes. You know, we view that as a matter between the festival and Roe Engineering. But for purposes, again, keeping things on target tonight, if there are clarification questions regarding any of these elements, that's our goal in being available to try to quantify and clarify what it is we're thinking. So I guess I'd steer it back to Mr. Oparka again. Number 2 on the 7-point list, again, I said I'm very linear, is one of the items that Roe was wanting additional information from the commission on tonight, correct?
We'll try and fix the root cause, the traffic. Okay,
Is that true?
we have, I am scheduled to talk with Kathy on Thursday when she gets back in town about how we're going to address the issues.
Okay,
We've just been, like I said, we've been retained, and then I was looking at the 2 items about adding, doing a traffic study and doing, adding the entrance and exit.
okay,
Like
so,
I said, I was told, okay, we proposed some in the past, and I said I wasn't involved or, around, and neither was Haley. So that we're totally agreeing to the parking issues and the traffic issues going on.
okay. And then I guess I would, present the question to, Mr. Schultz also, as far as the 7 items, given what Mr. Oparka just said, what other items on the 7-point list is there a desire or need for further clarification from us regarding, if any?
So I guess maybe Roe Engineering wasn't given the same information that I was. They were only talking about 2 topics. In our meeting last night with Mr. Peterson and with Mr. Parker, we listed 4 things. One of them being marking the chalk marks on the ground. A simple one, right?
The park, getting back to the parking.
That's a simple one.
Yep.
What is? Well, I think, in my own opinion, with number 2 being the root cause of the problem, right? I think once the root cause of the problem is resolved, that really should eliminate if we need an entrance and an exit.
Yes.
If we need to,
That'll-
I think you
that'll
have
come up
some,
with your
I think you have some things that could
Yes.
all be bunched into one evaluation. One of the things we were, I left you a message. I don't know if you got it. They had asked for an engineer showing lines
Yeah.
in the parking lot where we was.
Yeah, and we, like I said, we have done nothing.
Yeah.
We're waiting for Kathy to get here and give us our marching orders. But like I told her, I wanted to have a meeting, so we know exactly what they're expecting, And
Don't know because
we get
we have
that.
to just study.
They want to know that when it comes time to the festival, that we have plans in place. This is how you're gonna park them, this is gonna egress. You know, what do we, do we need another entrance? It all sounds, we can come up with that with the data we have from past history. All we're saying is, we're gonna come up with a plan, but I can't guarantee it's gonna be the fix-all.
Right, but that's where the plan B comes in,
Yeah.
you know, that we know what to do.
Plan A
when the
is
wheels
what we're
fall.
proposing, yeah, and then if the wheels
then-
fall off, then here's gonna be the measures. we're
Right,
gonna
because the
take.
goal is to
Yeah.
protect the surrounding neighborhoods.
But I think you'll end up, based on the data that you collect and based on the analysis that you do, you should be able to provide a recommendation back to the Renaissance Festival on, here's your cap. Based on the traffic flow. I mean, from what you have, from historical, and you should be able to give engineering judgment on, here's your cap for right now. So that would be your plan B in terms of, here's what we can do. But then once you hit that threshold, this is where you need to cut it off. Or this is where
You're
it will
approaching
break
critical,
down.
yes. you
Yeah,
need to
this
start
is
to-
where it will break down and you'll have to address it for attendance over X. I mean, that would be your ultimate recommendation. Then it would be up to the Renaissance Festival to figure out how they're going to handle that, whether it's going through and basically shutting it down, saying it's full, having a cap on tickets, however they end up figuring out how to address that.
Jenny?
I guess they have an idea of how many people walk up and buy tickets and how many come with pre-done tickets. And those pre-done tickets could be dated so that you drive the people there earlier in a season, like the first 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then you can have some that are like week 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you could have some that are like 4, 5, 6, 7. Or
Like she said, that comes down to knowing the limits of the park.
Yeah, and
right, but based upon how many people walk in, how many are the whole year ticket, and what the capacity is, you can look right there and see each day which is throwing you over, if it's your walk in and buying a ticket, or if it's the tickets that have been dispersed earlier. And if it's the tickets
Yeah, that
that's
should
been
be the-
dispersed earlier, then you have control over how you want to allocate those.
So I understand what you're saying, Ms. McKay, you're only, just to throw a caveat out to what you were saying is.
And I'm sure there are a lot of caveats that I don't know
The
about.
problem that you would have with doing that is if, let's just say 20,000 adults can be on the site at one time.
Okay.
And I sell 10,000 online, which leaves me 10,000 that I can sell at the door. What happens when 15,000 people show up in the parking lot to buy those 10,000 tickets? We still have a traffic problem. That's just one.
yeah, because you gotta go
There-
on the ground to purchase.
You would,
your
yeah, you would literally have to try to figure out how to get the word out that
Right.
we don't have
Okay,
to
so
spend
let's
on
just
this.
say, for sake of argument, it is not our responsibility to find out tonight what we're going to do. That is gonna be up to you guys, okay? Whatever you guys decide, you're gonna do a traffic study, a parking study, a capacity study, and you're gonna do some chalk lines, hopefully with the site plan. You're gonna do a site plan for the parking and the traffic, and hopefully, once you do all that, you'll get down to the root cause of why this is all happening. And then we'll have a contingency plan if that root cause goes to prove it, right?
Bob?
This is where some history helps, and frankly, I appreciate what you have, Chip, because I think you know all of that data virtually off the top of your head, better than anybody else, because we've talked about it before. That's why we had suggested date-specific timings before. But he's right, and correct me if I'm wrong. We get a bulk of tickets for doing the ambulance service there, and that's what we use to make sure the road commission guy comes out and grades the road when I call him, and the postman delivers the mail when we get here, and the firefighters get some tickets for it, and then we take a bunch of them here and give them to the residents that want to go, so they each get a couple of tickets to go, and it kind of softens everybody's mood on it. But the fact is, we get a bulk of tickets, and I could be wrong, but I thought Kathy told me once, you guys give like, I see 30,000 tickets or something.
I don't know.
It blew my mind. It's some astronomical number. I don't think they use all 30,000. I mean, I usually take my tickets and give them to people here anyway, right? So his point's well taken.
Right.
And yours is, I do think, I would love to see them run the festival and do whatever other activities they want to do on the property and be immensely successful without destroying the tranquility in the township. And so what happens is there's so many variables, and he knows them all, because I think I know them all too, just from years of doing this, that are hard to categorize. And that's why, I'm sorry if I was being persistent, but the critical issue is, if you can't fix it all this year, as Angela said, it's the plan B. It's gotta be, at what point do we say it just ain't working? And then really the answer could be up to the Renaissance Festival. Do you want date specific tickets? Do you want to add another weekend or something and figure out how to spread them? The very issue that you were talking about, Jenny, is what really, when I mentioned this to Wally, the haunted house across the street, he said, you know, when I have my haunted house in September and October, he said, I get very light traffic in September, and in October I get hammered because that's Halloween, right? He said, and I'm open on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if I don't do anything, Thursday and Sunday through all of it will be very light, and Friday and Saturday will be packed. So you know what Wally did? Said, I made the tickets in September cheaper than October, and I made the tickets on Thursday and Sunday cheaper than Friday and Saturday, kind of smooth this traffic out. I'm not saying what the solution is for the Renaissance Festival. There's a variety of things that could be done. And to Ms. Willis's point, I think what has to come out of here is really, if they can't get all the fixes in, it's going to be, what is plan B and how does that work? Because if you get close to 300,000 this year, and I think with COVID diminishing, you're going to have the biggest attendance you ever had this summer.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't.
I'll bet you.
Not with gas prices
I
the way
don't-
they're going.
Inflation
The
rate.
gas don't mean anything. I've seen people come up from Ohio. We had
Yes.
people come up from Ohio, park their car on Dixie Highway, and a cop come up and say, I'm towing that car. If you don't get it out here, the guy goes, tow the son of a bitch. I just drove 4 hours. I don't care. I'll pick it up.
And that's what I'm
And
saying.
they paid $400 to
People
get a
come
car.
from a long ways, so a lot of them might not come
They serve
because.
it
Okay.
like she's saying,
It-
Inflation,
It's kind of
it's
scary this
It's
year.
hard to tell what's really gonna happen, and we will come up with a plan, we will have a plan B. Will it work? You know, we'll find out.
Well, nobody
We will get you markings, we'll get you a plan, you know, and give you a number that we think can get out of there efficiently, in and out, and how many, you know, can get in and out with the current drives they have. Like he's saying, well, money talks, you can get somebody to drive. No, when it comes to paving, MDOT holds the key to paving. I can't get paving for my projects because MDOT's got a hold on it. It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of supply. So, you know, there are some things money can't solve.
again, nobody can predict the future.
Right.
The purpose for this evening is just to ensure that there's a full, thorough, complete understanding as to what our objectives are. We believe it's, the responsibility of the festival, working with its vendors and its partners and its agents on how to accomplish those objectives.
And I think it just boils down to, okay, here's the data that we have for right now based on historical. Here's what we're proposing as a stopgap. Here's our threshold. So now the ball goes into the Renaissance Festival's court on how they're gonna handle anything above that threshold. And then that's a comprehensive plan for this year, right? And then after the formal traffic study, then it's the proposal of here's our long-term solution.
Thank you, Angela. Danielle?
So you as a board in the last meeting motioned that all these 7 items needed to be done by the 19th. And you also stated that it needs to be in place and working by the time the festival gets here. Is this something you want to continue with? Or is this something that you want to go through with a pilot And then with a contingency plan that if it gets out of hand, we have the right to shut it down.
Was it so for the 19th, I was under the impression that we had to provide something in writing to you to give you an update as to where we were with those 7 items.
And to be fair, I
Yeah.
believe what Chip just said is consistent with my understanding, at least as to what was approved.
You motioned a signed contract from RCOC to provide seasonal no parking signs. Contract to include site plans for location. A formal plan to fix root cause for traffic parking. Quotes for the signs on exit 101 and 106. With some type of purchase showing us that you do have this in place. The traffic parking study, capacity, disaster recovery plan, contingency plan, site plan for talking spaces.
And Danielle, thank you. I know the list is self-evidencing, but it was my understanding, obviously, that was formalized on March 22nd. I don't know if there's any way humanly possible to fully achieve each of those 7 elements in less than a month's time.
So if it helps you.
But here's the thing, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone on this commission, was that there should be some report from the festival as to the advancing of the chalk. If you understand what I'm saying, what is being done? How are we doing with regard to timelines with an eye towards full accomplishment on time? Chip, is that fair?
And that's exactly how I understood it, and that's how I presented it to
Yeah.
festival management. So if it helps you guys at all, on a positive note, we've already sent in the permit and the check to the road commission for the signs to be placed at Holdridge Road, and I take that back, I'm sorry, Perryville Road and Laring. Holdridge Road cannot be marked for no parking because the state police don't have an ordinance in place on that street. So
Okay.
we do have that. I do have a quote signed with safety barricade for 4 digital signs that you guys requested that we will have full control of. And I do have a copy of that here. That'll be in for the 19th.
Right. I was just gonna say not to,
Is that a purchase or a lease?
We are gonna lease them, and I did talk to the gentleman at Safety Directive, and he, before I even said anything, he recommended not purchasing, but to lease them, because if they break, we can get a new one through the lease program, and we'll just continue that year after year.
so not to cut you off, and, we sincerely appreciate the efforts undertaken thus far, but we're only a week out from our April 19th meeting, at which, we'll be given, I guess, a more detailed report regarding status.
April
and-
26th.
April
Yeah,
26th.
Or April
information's
26th.
due on the
I gotta have
19th.
it in
Yes.
by the next-
Yes.
Thank you, yes.
And so I can do clarification, and what time on the 19th is the drop? We want it by,
I need
you
a, I
have
would
to
need,
tell me
a-
the time so that
I
I
would
can
need the
say
whole, I would need everything by noon,
noon
so-
on the 19th.
yes. So I can send over the stuff to the newspaper. Okay.
And obviously, the deadline is designed to give the commission
Absolutely.
adequate time to review, I guess what I'd call a status report from the festival, in order to then collectively rebut that at the April 26th meeting,
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, Danielle, are we good with tonight's record regarding what?
I would make a
road-
motion to,
I would just like to ask one question in regard to number 7, the PA system. You have them doing 2, 4, 5, and 6, and you've addressed 1 and 3. Where is your stance with 7?
So on number 7,
Mhm.
I just sent the email. I spoke with Sergeant Miller this morning, who's the sergeant in charge of patrol services.
Okay.
I
I know you talked about using the
Yep.
police cars.
So
as-
we're going to have it, I don't believe, I know somebody said it has to be in the contract. I don't think the sheriff's office or the county will put it into a contract because the contracts are more specific towards pay. They don't really get into the details of the inner workings of what takes place on a festival day. But we have what's called post orders that every deputy is given on the day they arrive, and we have them posted in my office, where the deputies check in. In that post orders, I have asked of the command staff at the sheriff's office to add in that PA systems from the patrol cars to be utilized at festivals requests for emergencies. And we already do have, just a side note on that, we already have in our post orders, and I'm going to attempt to reinforce it this year, that all residents living on Perryville Road are given preference in and out of Perryville Road onto Dixie Highway. I will more than likely be going door to door on Perryville Road coming up here, probably around June or July, and speaking to all of the residents.
So like you'll give them something to
I'm
put in
gonna
the
give them
window or
something
something
that
to be
the deputies can
recognized.
see it.
Okay.
And know that they belong on Perryville Road and that they're to be given priority. And I've talked to a few deputies over the last couple of weeks. If you didn't catch it last time, I am a detective for the sheriff's office. So, and a lot of them are like, we always give them priority. So that's you do, but we do have some that don't. And so that's gonna be in their post orders that, and we've had a great working relationship with the sheriff's office at festival. It's actually how I got hired. I was working festival before I went to the sheriff's office. I was actually the sergeant EMS coordinator here in Groveland Township for years. So fire department. So my ties to this township do go way back. But we've had a great relationship with the festival. And as I said before, Monday through Friday, I work for them, but on the weekends, they work for me. And we've been able to do that. So whatever we need, whatever festival needs from the sheriff's office on a festival day will happen.
Is there a way that we can at least get, industry I work in, if you can include something in the contract, at least show a trail via email, if you can somehow at least request it through email and then have somebody on the other side,
I have every intention of sharing that with you.
and then just include that in the packet, and then that way we know we got the communication has been made.
Already. out
Okay.
there.
So suffice it to say, I think we're all collectively looking forward to the status report next Tuesday, the 19th. And then, we'll have our scheduled meeting on the 26th. Mr. Oparka and Ms. Savola, do you have any further questions of us?
I think we're good.
Okay, any, Jim?
First of all, thank you all for being here. Obviously, we're interested in making this work better. My vision for this is one of collaboration, and I'm hearing that loud and clear. Is it possible, as you folks from Row do your calculations, that we could see the minimums and maximums, help to educate us along the way? That would be helpful.
I'd like a presentation of our plan. You're saying.
Yeah, in other words, we're recommending this based upon this metric, perhaps. And
Yeah, how did you arrive to the decision? So
that would be really helpful. I'm not putting you on the spot when I ask this. No, I'm really not. When do you think we can have a rudimentary plan so that we can start pulling it apart in terms of creating questions that we want to ask you?
We were just talking, and we need to talk with our client, everything that we're gonna have to do and what it's gonna take and when we can deliver that. So we will have that conversation with her, and on Tuesday, when they get their report, we'll have that answer for you.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Very good. Anything else, Jim?
It's premature, but I'm going to say it. So, Chip, you have used two words right now: leasing an attempt, which deviates from purchase, and whatever the hell the opposite of attempt is.
What was that? What was the attempt reference to?
So I will attempt to ensure that the sheriff's department will allow people that live on Perryville Road or something similar.
So there's a caveat to that, right? I'm not standing this.
I got it.
So the problem that we have, and we have had in the past, is
Not enough that we.
no, it's not even that. It's not even a matter of not enough. We have enough.
Not
deputies.
even
The problem
everywhere,
is,
there's a shortage.
egos and attitudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna come down to, Jim. I can have the nicest, pleasant deputy standing there, and the lady wants to get on the Craver Road, and he's like, go right ahead. They do shifts, so he's not standing there all day long, knowing that people on Craver Road get preferential treatment. Every deputy's gonna know that. The problem that you're gonna have is, you guys know this.
some are gonna be cranky because they
Thank you.
did the shift.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even the guys who've done
Yeah,
are being forced there.
or they're just gonna.
Maybe they
flat out
worked the
be
shift
cranky.
before and they want to work overtime. So let's just face it, you,
You can't make a guarantee to people's
I
attitudes.
can't guarantee someone's not gonna be an ass. For lack of a better term,
So what negative consequences to that?
it will- no, I wouldn't say nothing. That would be a conversation that I have with the sergeant that's out there for the day or the lieutenant for the day. And then they're gonna have to reinforce it to that deputy that, hey, you can't be like that. And I've had it. We've banned deputies from working festival because of their attitudes. It's been a long time since we've had to do that. And I'm thankful for that because I do have to work with these guys every day. I got 2 more years. I really don't care at this point. But
You're not
can't-
accountable.
when I say intent, I can't, here's what, Jim, I would say my brother's gonna be standing, my brother's a deputy, my brother's worked festival traffic, he worked first aid for years, because he got through his road. My brother knows people on Craver Road get preferential treatment, but I don't have 13 of my brothers standing there to do that. I'm gonna get one, I'm gonna get that road, you guys, we watch the news, we know that not all cops are great, I would admit it. We have some guys that have attitude problems, and
Is there a way, and I don't know, I don't mean to, I'm not gonna stereotype here, but I know that you got the last 3 weeks, which are the weekends, which are the most busiest weekends, and that could get stressful. I can understand. Is there something that could be done to make them feel a little better, entice them with food? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Ms. Willis, let me tell you,
cater
what I
them to a
get.
breakfast and a lunch. I don't mean to be,
I
I
would
know
go-
it's funny, but I worked with mechanics and in order to get something done and they're under a stressful situation, it's like, okay, cater lunch for a day, bring in pizza,
So
bring in
here's-
breakfast.
They get every day free food. They can go when they are at a shift change or they get their break.
Yeah,
We have a food tent that they have perfect access to. They can get whatever they want from underneath the tent that we're serving up that day.
so they're spoiled brats.
They are spoiled. They are spoiled brats. And I can tell you this for a fact. They have a cooler. I have a cooler that sits out on Dixie Highway full of water, Gatorade, soda, whatever they want, I will bring to them to make sure that they are happy, they're fed, and they have water. That's already taken place. Bob, we were talking about tickets. This is not a lie. This is a fact. I gave away 8,000 tickets a year.
Yeah.
Majority to the people that I work with. And I will tell you, because it keeps them happy and it kept them coming out there. So, sorry, Danielle. But
That's okay.
to answer your question, Mr. Christopher, I can't guarantee that I'm gonna have 13 happy, pleasant deputies standing out on Dixie Highway. Every day.
24,000 public coming in.
No, when
So
it's hot.
I can't, that's why when I say
Yeah.
attempt, we
So,
will attempt to make every reasonable possible chance and know that the people on Perryville Road will be given the priority to get on and off Perryville Road.
okay, thank you, Chip. Danielle?
I was just gonna say, there's gonna be another PC meeting about these other topics that we're gonna have oodles of time to talk about
Yes,
this. You know,
yes.
In the last month, I spent more time thinking about the Renaissance Festival than I've ever wanted in my life.
So
I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
that being said, if I could,
It's only just
if
begun.
I could inquire of you, is there anything that in
I
your
personally
estimation, we need a
think-
motion?
You should motion against your motion from the last meeting stating that everything needed to be turned in. I think you should put a motion. The following 7 items stipulated in this meeting will be in progression
Well,
give you a
that-
schedule.
Or at
I
least
think that there-
proposed work in
maybe
progress.
that there's, some showing of substantial good faith towards accomplishment of, the stated objectives, the 7-point objective.
Let's motion that.
Okay,
You just motioned it. I second it.
Yeah, we can provide you with the schedule when we can deliver these items to you for your review.
okay, so for purposes of the record, then we have a motion as stated by yourself.
Yes, instead of the word completed in the minutes for the last motion, it's
You're gonna have either purchase orders or.
some show of faith that you are getting this stuff done.
Updated.
Okay,
All of the above.
so if I could have a motion to that effect,
Second it? Or I make the motion?
you make the motion,
You second it?
Madam,
He seconded it?
seconded by
Dachshund.
Mr. Newbill.
Takes a village.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and approved, as stated. Anything further?
No, I think the expectation though is, yeah, they're gonna provide a plan and a timeline, but we need to make sure that we get updates on a regular basis to make sure that nothing on that timeline is slipping.
And I think that is something we will address square on the April 26th
I
when we
agree.
resume, and we will then have something to, I guess, to give feedback regarding. We'll see what the status is and how we're progressing at that time.
You have a period that you need final completion stuff to you for your review before the festival starts. Starts in August, so you want everything by July 1? Do you want it by June?
I think what had been put in the February 15th correspondence was 60 days in advance of the scheduled opening of the festival. Okay. Any further comments, questions? I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn, y'all,
I second.
by everybody. All in favor?
Okay.
Better than the last one.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
Way to go.
No motion.
Anyway.
Way to go.
Whatever.
Maybe-
Thanks, Lynn.
So I